Hey guys, it's Dr. Hansen. Listen, I wanted to share with you some really interesting research that's being done around stem cells, specifically bone marrow transplants. And of course, this is done in mice, but some really cool implications when it comes to humans as well. Essentially, what they're looking at is cognitive decline or neurodegenerative disease and how stem cells help reverse and prevent that. Now, remember, there's kind of three main ways that we can generally understand the mechanism or what stem cells actually do for us. One is going to be to actually regenerate tissues, cells, etc. in the body. One is going to have a very immunomodulatory effect, meaning if the immune system is too ramped up, it'll ramp it down. If the immune system's too far down, it'll ramp it up. And the third is going to be inflammation. So stem cells have a very good modulation of inflammation in the body, which is vital for us staying healthy and young and vibrant. So anyways, what they did was if you'll just kind of look at the pictures here, they looked at nerve cells in the body. And so these right here, what's called a microglia, in a young mouse, you can see how that little nerve cell has tons of little arms coming off of it. That means it can make lots of neurologic connections, which is good for brain functions. You can see that when they're older, that's declined significantly, and so has neurologic function. Now, what they did was they said, okay, well, what if we do a bone marrow transplant and we put in these essentially stem cells or these healthy young cells into, well, I shouldn't say healthy young cells. What if we put these cells into young versus old brains? What happens? Well, if they use old cells from an old mouse and put them into a new old mouse, what happens is not much. You'll notice there's a little different neurologic makeup, but we don't see more of those branches. We don't see it looking more like it did when it was younger. What they notice is if they do a bone marrow transplant from a young mouse and put that into an older mouse, now you see not only does it look like it did when it was younger, but actually almost better, right? You'll notice more of the arms, more connections being made, etc. So this is really, really important. A couple of very interesting things to understand from this, or that we can that this is kind of telling us, right? So one, there's an idea that when it comes to regenerative therapy, that we should be using our own stuff. So a lot of times, practitioners that are doing, for example, stem cell therapy, they'll suggest, well, we should do a bone marrow aspiration, or we should pull stem cells from your adipose tissue. And this is a great example of one of the reasons why that's not a great idea. Unfortunately, what it means is you're getting older stem cells that aren't as effective, that don't have as good of a response in the body, and you also have a net negative. You're taking your own stem cells to treat yourself, which means you have a lot less stem cells, and the point is to have more, right? There's a couple reasons that they found, or that they think that this may be happening, or they may be seeing these results with these old and young kind of different applications there. What they're noticing is, we'll come down here to the bottom of it. So they just mentioned the research suggests the answer lies in the specific properties of those youthful blood cells. And how they are reversing cognitive decline. They're not exactly sure how it happens. They just see that it does. Okay, they evaluated the hippocampus, a region associated with memory. We have a hippocampus as well. And the recipients of the young bone marrow retain more connections, or those synapses between the neurons, than the ones who got the old ones. Even though they had about the same number of neurons. So again, synapses right here, synapses critical to brain performance. So one of the reasons why they think that you might, or these mice might, we're just going to keep it as mice, that they think they might lose these synapses or these connections is because of activation of microglia, or these immune cells in the brain. And they support neuron health, as it says here, but they can become overactive, and when they're overactive, that'll kind of disconnect some of those synapses. It'll disconnect the connections. So, of course, with fewer of those overactive microglia, neurons would remain healthy and you'd have more synapses survive. And so essentially what that's saying is, again, kind of back to the three main functions of stem cells, now we're talking about modulating the immune system. So overactive immune system in the brain starts disconnecting things. Stem cell treatment ramps or modulates that immune system, I shouldn't say ramp, brings that back down to normal, modulates the immune system, and we have better connections, we maintain better connections in the brain. There's also, they mentioned, I think, one more thing. Oh, no, I think those are the two main reasons why they explained here in the article about why that might be happening. Anyways, very interesting. This just came out in February of this year, 2019. Just very interesting application or info here. But this is generally what we are seeing when we look at the stem cell / regenerative therapy scene at large. Just everything pointing to, one, the ability to treat and make really positive changes with a lot of the big problems that we're facing these days that don't have good answers, like cognitive decline. Also, just seeing that the youth and the vitality of these cells is very important. And just applications across the board, from the brain to the body to joints to organs, etc. So anyways, stem cells, regenerative therapy, very exciting field to be in. And this is one more piece of the puzzle.